Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're heading straight to the brutal desert planet of Arrakis to break down the heavy strategy game Dune Imperium. If you've ever felt totally intimidated by this massive game sitting on the table, hey, just remember, fear is the mind killer, right? We're going to translate all this complex strategy into easy-to-grasp, beginner-friendly mechanics so you can confidently sit down and start playing immediately.
Okay, let's dive into this and immediately ground ourselves in the ultimate goal of the game. In Dune Imperium, you're playing as a leader of one of the great houses, vying for total dominance. And how do you get that dominance? By collecting victory points. The game is essentially a pure race. You're trying to reach exactly 10 victory points on the score track. If you hit that, or if the 10-card conflict deck completely runs out, the game ends and whoever has the most points takes the win. Literally everything you do on your turn is just a stepping stone toward that 10-point threshold.
Now, here's our roadmap for the game. We'll be hitting game setup, the 5-phase round, agent turns, reveal turns, combat, and finally scoring in the endgame. This is basically a rulebook table of contents, just to keep things organized.
All right, Section 1, Game Setup. Setting the table correctly is the absolute foundation of a good game here.
For your personal setup, if this is your very first game, I highly recommend picking a leader card with just one dot next to their name. The more dots a leader has, the more strategically complex they are to play. So, those one-dot leaders? Perfect for beginners. You'll also grab your 10-card starter deck. Just place that face down to the left of your leader. Then, take your 2 agent pieces, which are basically the workers you'll be placing on the board, and pop them right on your leader card. You might notice you actually have a third agent, the Swordmaster, but just set that one aside for now. You have to earn it later. Finally, gather up your colored cubes for tracking influence and recruiting, and grab your starting water token from the bank.
Moving on to Section 2, the 5-phase round. This structure is the spine of the entire game.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because every single round of Dune Imperium is structured exactly the same way. It flows through these 5 distinct phases. In order, you start the round, take player turns, resolve combat, generate spice in the Maker's phase, and then do a quick recall cleanup. This predictable structure is really going to anchor your understanding of how everything connects.
Phase 1 is the round start. It's incredibly quick but absolutely critical. First thing you do is flip over the top card of the conflict deck. This shows you the rewards for the combat phase, which effectively sets the stakes right away, so you can decide if it's actually worth fighting this round. Then, every player draws 5 cards from their personal deck. These 5 cards form your hand, and they literally dictate exactly what strategic options you have available right now.
All right, Section 3, Agent Turns. This is where we actually take action.
So, you're in Phase 2. Starting with the first player and going clockwise, you're faced with a strict either-or decision. You can either take an agent turn, option A, where you play a card to send an agent out onto the board to scoop up resources and rewards, or if you run out of agents or maybe you just want to, you take option B, the reveal turn. The big catch here is that once you take a reveal turn, you are entirely done for the rest of Phase 2 while everyone else finishes up. But honestly, most of the time you'll be taking agent turns until you're completely out of agents.
Let's break down exactly what option A looks like. Here is the step-by-step anatomy of an agent turn. First, you play a single card from your hand face up. Look closely at the symbols on the left side of that card. Those tell you exactly which spaces on the board your agent is legally allowed to travel to. Second, if that board space has a cost, like paying water or the precious spice or Solari currency, you've got to pay it to the bank. Third, place your agent on that space and collect the reward printed right there on the board. And fourth, look at the gray line at the bottom of the card you just played, that's the agent box, and collect that specific reward as well. Oh, and a quick tip, you can actually resolve the board reward and the card reward in whichever order you want.
So the crucial point here is managing your troops, because this trips up a lot of beginners. There are 3 separate places your troop cubes can be. First is your personal supply, which is just where they sit before you recruit them. When you actually recruit troops using a card or board space, they go straight to your garrison. Think of the garrison as your safe staging area. To actually get them into the conflict area, the actual battlefield in the center of the board, you have to send an agent to a combat space. You'll know it by the crossed swords icon. If you do that, you can send those newly recruited troops straight to the conflict. And you get a massive bonus. You can deploy up to 2 extra troops that were already sitting in your garrison into the battle.
Another huge part of your agent turns is interacting with the 4 major factions: the Fremen, the Bene Gesserit, the Emperor, and the Spacing Guild. Whenever you place an agent on a faction's space, you get to move your cube up their influence track. If you hit level 2 on any track, boom, you instantly gain a victory point.
If you push all the way to level 4, you secure that faction's alliance token, which gives you another victory point. But be warned, Arrakis is super cutthroat. If another player climbs higher on that track than you, they will literally steal that token and the point right out of your hands. No joke.
Moving into Section 4, Reveal, Turns, and Deck Building. Remember, this is that second choice you had back in Phase 2.
When you finally decide to take a reveal turn, you're going to execute these 4 steps. First, you flip over all the cards still left in your hand that you didn't play during your agent turns. Second, you look at the blue box at the bottom of these revealed cards and total up your persuasion. Third, you spend that persuasion to buy powerful new cards from the communal Imperium row. And fourth, you set your final combat strength for the upcoming battle.
Let's define that term really quickly just so we're absolutely clear. Persuasion is your temporary buying power. It's a currency that only exists right here during your reveal turn. You don't get little cardboard tokens for it, you just count it up and spend it to acquire better cards. And here is a vital strategic detail. Any cards you purchase go directly into your discard pile, not into your hand. You are investing in your future rounds, right? You'll only get to use them once your deck runs empty and you shuffle your discard pile to form a fresh deck.
Now let's talk about Step 4, calculating your combat strength. It's super simple. Every single troop cube you successfully manage to push into the conflict area on the board is worth exactly 2 strength. Just count your cubes in the battlefield, multiply by 2, and that's your base strength. Easy.
Now what's really interesting about this is that troops aren't your only source of power. See the little sword icons in the reveal boxes on those cards you just flipped? Each of those is worth an additional 1 strength. So your final combat strength is simply the combination of the troops you committed to the board plus the swords you held back in your hand. You mark this total on the combat track and then sweep all your played and revealed cards right into your discard pile.
Which brings us to Section 5, the combat phase. This is where the strength we just calculated gets put to the test.
All right, Phase 3. At the start of combat, players who actually have troops in the conflict take turns playing combat intrigue cards. These are secret cards you might have gathered during your agent turns. And let me tell you, this is where massive surprise swings happen. You might think you're cruising to an easy win with 12 strength, only for an opponent to drop a +3 intrigue card and completely steal first place from you. You just go around the table playing these until everyone consecutively passes. Once the dust settles, you compare final strength numbers. Highest strength claims the top reward on the round's conflict card, second highest gets the second reward, and so on. Afterwards, all troops in the conflict are returned to your personal supply. They do not go back to your garrison.
But what happens if players have the exact same strength? Well, tying in combat is actually quite punishing. If 2 or more players are tied for first place, nobody gets the first place reward. Instead, all tied players get bumped down and receive the second place reward. If you tie for second, the first place winner gets their top prize, sure, but the tied players get bumped down to the third place reward. And if you somehow tie for third place, you unfortunately walk away with absolutely nothing. Ouch.
After the blood is spilled and rewards are claimed, we wrap up the round. In Phase 4, the Maker's Phase, you look at the board's spice spaces. If no one visited them this round, you add a bonus spice token to them from the bank. This makes those empty spaces incredibly tempting for the next round. Finally, in Phase 5, the Recall Phase, you check the score track. If anyone has 10 or more victory points, the game ends right there. If not, you simply take your agents off the board, bring them back to your leader, pass the first player token clockwise, and start a brand new round.
And finally, Section 6, scoring and the endgame. Let's talk about how this all wraps up.
When the game does end, players can play any special endgame intrigue cards they were secretly holding to score a few last-minute points. The player with the most victory points wins. Simple. But if there is a tie? And this brilliantly illustrates just how tight resource management is in this game. The tiebreaker hierarchy is incredibly strict. The tied player with the most spice wins. Still tied? Check who has the most Solari currency. Still tied? Check water. And if it is remarkably still tied after all of that, the player who held the most troops back in their garrison is declared the ultimate victor.
So, the mechanics are now in your hands. The objective is clear, the phases are set, and the rules of engagement have been laid bare. The spice must flow, but do you have the cunning to balance careful worker placement, strategic deck building, and brutal open warfare to secure your great house's dominance? I really hope this explainer has you excited to sit down at the table and find out. Thanks for joining me.